From Backcountry Magazine, this is the Backcountry Podcast. I'm Adam Howard. Welcome to another edition of Backcountry Magazine's Plan B podcast. I'm Adam Howard. We're calling today's show The Maker's Lament. What has the COVID crisis meant for European manufacturing? How about American apparel brands sourcing their garments in China or India? And have domestic manufacturers got a leg up? The fact is, we're all screwed in one way or another, but at least we can laugh together. To join Backcountry Editor-in-Chief Lucy Higgins and myself, I've called Thor Verdonk, global bigwig with Rossi and Lange. He's traded his Platinum Airline mile status for a month in his basement in Utah. Dan Abrams, co-founder of Flylow Gear, joins us from his home in Tahoe, where he's decided he's not an electrician after all. Finally, Jason Levinthal is on the line from his home in Vermont, where his yard is at least 6 weeks ahead of schedule. The founder of Line Skis, Jason now runs J Skis and Forefront, two highly regarded direct-to-consumer brands. If you like what you're hearing, please consider visiting our website, backcountrymagazine.com/podcast, where you can support this episode. Tor, I'd like to start with you. Early on, when we saw the flare-up in Italy, of course, I'm thinking ski boot production. Then, of course, it matriculated out into the rest of Central Europe and beyond. What were some of the first conversations you guys had about what was happening in northern Italy?
I was there, I think, about 2 or 3 days before. To be honest with you, it was kind of business as usual. There was some discussion about it going around, but in the kind of the Montebluna area, that kind of 50-mile radius where all the boot manufacturers are, they were like, it's not really us. It's more Venice, which is only 45 minutes south of there. Right. But they kind of felt isolated, but it came around and hit pretty quickly after that. Reality sunk in, obviously.
What did it mean for your production there? Were you guys shut down? Are you shut down?
Currently, our Italian factory is shut down. At the time when it kind of first hit there in I guess end of February, early March, we were not shut down. It was kind of business as usual there. As it kind of grew in scope, mostly in Milan and also, the hotspot near Venice, they started doing some rules where only 3 or 4 people could be at the coffee machine at a time, and meetings were cut down from 10 people to smaller groups, things like that. But really, production didn't shut down till I would say a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks now.
What's that going to mean for delivery for the autumn? I mean, you guys are already delivering product for next year to North America, at least in part. Is this something you think you can make up over the summer, or how's that looking?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something we can make up over the summer. Obviously, things are still to be seen when we get back up and running. The goal is the end of the month here for sure. Maybe even a little earlier in Italy. There's a possibility of that, but that changes daily. The way production is kind of scheduled, we can move some of the production originally planned later. For example, rental product might not be needed, until the snow flies. So you can push that product a little farther down the road. And so ultimately, in the end, delivery wise, we don't really expect to be kind of behind at all in the end, provided this thing gets cleaned up here, by beginning of May.
How about on the ski side?
Ski side, well, production continued on for quite a bit, and again, on boots and on skis, we have a few different factories. So we do have some factories in Romania and Moldavia and some other places, and those have still been running a little lighter capacity for the social distancing. On the ski side, we were still up and running quite strong, and then obviously Spain has become a pretty big hotspot for the coronavirus as well. So, I don't have the latest on Spain. I believe they're still producing a little bit, but it's smaller production than it was in the past, just to limit the number of people.
Dan, you produce a lot of Flylow gear in Asia. Tell us what you're seeing and when you started seeing it. How has this impacted your business?
Well, starting back in January, we started hearing about coronavirus and about potential issues in China, and it was really at Outdoor Retailer that around that time that it became obvious and that we started to hear about factory shutdowns. It was fortunate from a timing standpoint, and maybe it was strategic from the Chinese government, but the lockdowns in China happened over the Chinese New Year, so we were already Chinese New Year already stops production, and you don't get any emails from factories, and nothing happens for a month towards the end of January. And when Chinese New Year ended, our Chinese factories started to come back online, but at a limited capacity, so about 60%. And then the cascading effect of it just started to roll out into the other parts of our manufacturing, because it's a it's a globalized production stream, if you will. And so something is coming out of China, whether it's thread or laminates, fabric, and everything's intertwined. So even though the majority of our production is happening in Vietnam, you can't make a garment without the entire world working together. So we started to see delays in Vietnam, and then the cascading effect has finally actually just now really hit India in a major way, and that's where we'll make lower tech garments like tech flannels or pants and stuff like that. And the Indian government is struggling to figure out exactly what to do. And currently we have factories that are 100% offline and have been for coming on 3 weeks, and they continue to push back the timing for that stuff to open up. So when it comes to production lead times and what that does to our delivery, we've been doing this long enough, and we've seen everything happen from strikes in the ports in LA to a tsunami hit Japan. These are bigger, more important things than ski apparel, but nonetheless, when it comes to production of it, we try to build in a 6-week buffer so that we can get production in on time. And currently, we're looking at an average of 3 to 4 week delays for production coming in the country, and that's still within our buffer. So we're not looking like we're going to be very late. And then there's another factor in terms of the buffer, which is that if you air freight something, you can receive it from anywhere in the world in roughly 7 days. But if you sea freight it, sea freight from India will take 6 weeks. A sea freight from Hong Kong port or China will take about 3 to 4 weeks. Actually, the longest part of that is getting it off the boat in the United States. We work the slowest. So we have the capability of air freighting essential garments into the country so we can get our independent retailers rolling with their inventory and try to get them cash flowing their businesses and doing what they need to do as soon as possible.
Right, and of course on the retail side, that's a whole nother story. A lot of your retailers are shut down right now. Unlike Rozzy and J Skis and Lange, etc., you're in a little bit more in the outdoor side with apparel and mountain bike stuff. What are you seeing on your retailer side?
It's rough out there. We've seen a couple stores just close their doors. We've seen one of our competitors just close up shop. Essentially, I think, fortunately for us, we're pretty established. We're small and we can be nimble. But pretty much no one is selling summer apparel right now. Kind of this whole other topic of backcountry skiing and backcountry ski equipment that all those stores were able to sell initially during the onset of the virus. I think all of that cash has come in, and hopefully that helps these store owners, keep the doors open or be ready to open the doors. But I think it's really tough out there. And we saw 10 years ago, every small retailer had a website, and then every small retailer realized that wasn't going to work for them. So they all got rid of their websites. So there's still an online component, but there are stores where they're not going into their actual physical retail stores where their inventory is, so they can't sell anything online that's locked behind a door. So it's a real complicated situation. And hopefully, as they reintroduce the idea of normalcy to our society and they open up some small businesses, the idea of social distancing and having people go running and hiking and mountain biking is something that would lead us to open those independent outdoor retailers in the first wave. But we will see.
Jason, what would you normally be doing this time of year with your business? And are you doing that now?
Yeah, I'm just doing the same stuff because it's all planning and prepping for the fall for selling, marketing and selling. And, the real question is just like not the virus as much as the economy for me, because if people don't have jobs, like I'm just wondering what percentage of my customers don't have jobs, because even if they get jobs 90 days from now, they're going to miss that entire opportunity to save money, throughout the summer. They're going to have debt that like they wouldn't have at that time, probably back paying whatever they didn't pay. So I guess it's just really unknown, but you kind of have two choices. You can either, put everything on pause and just like wait and see, or you can try to one up whatever you were doing previously, knowing that it's going to be more competitive. There's going to be more product in the market. You missed maybe 15% of sales in the spring, especially a lot of these resorts that have spring sales or online, there's just a huge unknown as to the volume. That's right. What I think. I mean, we're talking about trying to get product, but who are you going to sell it to if people don't even have jobs to buy it, right? So I'm looking at like how much lower is it going to be? What's the minimum spending I can do, so that I'm going to be financially more stable, if sales are down 40%, let's say, maybe they're down 60, maybe they're down 20. You don't really know, So I'm actually trying to one up whatever I did last year. I'm thinking like, okay, how's our website? How's the communication? What's the marketing? How can we better analyze what our results were last year and do better this year, knowing that there's gonna be more product in the market with less people that actually want it. And that's kind of my strategy right now.
Right. And of course, you're direct to consumer, so you're not, dealing with the retailer, but you still got to figure out the volume you've got to make. And that's
sure.
And each of you are in that same boat. You're trying to figure volume. Have you noticed, Dan and Tor? Have you noticed orders? What are orders looking like compared to a normal year?
Tor, you want to go first, or you want me to go?
It doesn't matter. Well, I'll answer that. I mean, for sure, I think we are expecting orders to come in right now for next year winter season. So the sales reps are busy and the country managers are busy, calling those in. For sure, we're seeing some more conservative orders come in than in the past. I think, as Jason said, it's still a little unknown in terms of how far down are we going to be, 10% or 20%. I think the economy is going to play into that quite a bit, how long this goes on in that sense. So we are expecting down. We've adjusted production to be a little bit smarter, maybe rather sell out of some product, some of the additional inventory that we might have planned for, in the column where we have a column where, if it snows, right, next year, that normally the ski industry would see a nice bump because it's snowing, from coast to coast or globally. We've scaled those numbers back. This all helps us meet our production timelines, but also is, smart business that we don't overload the industry with a bunch of inventory, and keep what inventory the dealers have of top value.
So at FlyLo, now that we're doing summer business, we've seen reductions of summer orders up to 60% from some stores. And then, like I said, we've seen stores close, so they're not going to take anything. and pretty much across the board, everybody that hasn't received their inventory, which would be 60% of the inventory that we built for people, they asked us to put that inventory on hold. For us, summer business is about 5 to 6% of our total sales, so it's not a big deal. Compared to a company that's more of a summer-oriented company, I think that those summer-oriented brands, swim, surf, skate, those guys are in a real tough place right now, and you've seen them turn around and lay off a lot of people. Looking forward into winter, there's some good things about making apparel. I think there's more margin to be made, which helps, and that's why you can see stores go on sale down to 50% on ski gear or on ski apparel. The negative side of it is that our lead time to produce fabric, zippers, get it all stitched and import it is 9 months. So we're kind of a ship that we can steer a little bit, but we can't be as nimble as I feel like the hard goods side of things. And we placed our orders with factories back in December, so you're always up in the air. We are currently anticipating about 20% of our preseason sales, because our reps have already submitted all their orders. We're anticipating 20% of the sales to be canceled come the fall. So like Jason's saying, there's going to be a lot of inventory, and hopefully it snows, and hopefully the ski hills can open and figure out how to social distance in a way that can work with maybe a second wave of the coronavirus coming, and that we can keep spinning the lifts and keep these businesses going. We know that people want to go skiing. From what I understand, ski hill lift tickets and season passes are selling. So see what happens.
Do you guys see any, this might be jumping the gun a bit, but any benefits or any practices you'll take forward from all of this?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think I've already put much more emphasis on like just-in-time manufacturing and like what can be done to what extent, what percent of how little can we build up front and still have time to build whatever's selling the best, or pull back on what's not. Because the hardest part for winter is it's just so short. I mean, we literally sell 70% of our product by Christmas. So it's like people haven't even gone skiing when we're done with, 3/4 of our sales, which can be an advantage because whether the mountains are open or not, whether it snows or not, you can get sales. But it's a disadvantage in terms of you really only got till December to adjust or order more or build more product. So like for right now, I completely changed a few weeks ago. Just how I work with the factories, just got a lot tighter with them, and realized like on their side as well, we have to be partners more than customers with each other, and we worked out, I brought the harsh reality finally to their eyes of just, look, you can build me everything that I ordered, but more than likely it's not all going to get sold. And that means you're going to have even less to build the following year. So it'd be a lot better if we can build, let's say 60% of it right now, and have room to build the other 40% kind of in season, just in time, and be more accurate and both be financially better off, long term. So that's just like a general goal that I think regardless moving forward, if we can do, you're going to be a better business, but it's very difficult when you got bigger volumes, for larger companies.
Oh, it's actually not that different. We're in the same place, Jason, actually. I think to Lucy's question, what we'll learn from this move and take forward is that kind of SKU management. Does our line need to be as big as it is? Can we do more with less and focus that time in production better? So I think there are some things that we can learn from this thing moving forward. I think Jason and I probably more so than Dan with some spring and summer business. We're still at least I'm still pretty optimistic, and our brands are still pretty optimistic that we have 8-9 months to see what happens with obviously the COVID situation and how we get that under control, and hopefully the economy can recover a little bit. I think we all know it's going to take longer than 8-9 months for that to fully recover. But we're still pretty optimistic, but there are things we can take away from this thing and learn moving forward, and maybe not jam as much inventory into the market, and keep our dealers selling product of value rather than discounted product by loading them up.
Yeah, we at FlyLo have started looking as we're designing fall 21 now, because our lead times are so long. We've been talking a lot about not necessarily a SKU reduction as much as trying to find areas where we can have SKUs carry over, styles carry over with the same color. So if it ain't broke, you can run a tan pant for 3 years and make that a staple, and start to think of us a little bit more like a basics brand of, the basics of ski apparel, which is, not exactly something that people lump into their basics category, but like Levi's 501 doesn't necessarily change year after year. So if we can make a Flylow Baker bib in black and have it straight carry over, and the stores know that they don't have to discount, that the inventory is going to be good for another year, we can scale back production for us, which would be in, like for 2021, and we can have carryover inventory come into play.
I thought all you sell is black gloves and black pants. Isn't that the whole rule of thumb when you're making clothing?
I think that's other brands. For us, we evidently sell brown. We sell brown more than
okay. Well, yeah, just keep making those, whatever.
Yeah, we're just gonna stick to brown pants.
What is this meaning for you hard goods guys about with regard to development, new product development? I mean, is it steady as she goes, and you're gonna just kind of roll things out as you would normally do, or, I mean, and I know you're developing boots for 21, 22 now, say, so that the kind of the pony has left the barn on that one. But how does it feel? Will there be the same kind of resource allocation there? What is that looking like? Same on the ski side.
Well, I mean, I think, of course, we all have to adjust a little bit here. If sales are going to be down a certain percentage, then obviously the CapEx investment is going to take a hit as well. Again, I'm trying to take really optimistic look at this thing, and as optimistic as we can, or positives, on this. People are going to come back to the sport of skiing. We got to continue moving forward. At the same time, similar to what Dan had said, we'll carry over some products that traditionally might have had new graphics, for example, in coming next year. So those are some discussions that have happened over the last 2 to 3 weeks. If you go back 3-4 weeks ago, we were probably still on the path of new graphic, let's go for it. And as this thing progresses and we see where it might land, things change. So things change daily. In terms of product development, we're working already on 22, 23 product, because the ski boot process takes 2 years. For sure, it's slowed us down a little bit. I think it'll just make the back end of that a little bit more compact, where traditionally we might go a few months in between a prototype, where now we might have to speed that up a little bit more and put a little more time and effort into it. But we still keep moving forward. I'm on the phone every day. We're talking with the production people. We're also talking with the designers and the developers, and working on graphics. And we're able to do that fairly well via the web tools that we have. The hands-on part is the difficult part. And that's going to be a little bit more compressed, of course.
Right. Out there in Park City, are you guys all working from home?
The North American office is all working from home right now, so everybody is at home, and office is closed completely.
The thing is, you'd be able to test skis right now, for example. You could test skis next month or a month after, at Hood. And that's what's missing, but it doesn't mean you stop developing, and whether you release it at this point or that point, that's what can be waited till, a little bit later in the plan. But otherwise, I mean, we're still talking with engineers and we're still coming up with concepts. We're just like, well, when we can get on snow with it, we will, that's like the slowdown. That's my biggest concern too, is just the mountains, without the mountains open, and we'll be down 90%, you know what I mean? If the mountains aren't open, or, everyone got ripped off this year, or might have felt that way, in the last month, having their pass stop working. And there's going to be a lot of, geez, I wonder if I'm going to spend $600 and they're going to pull it out from the rug out from under me. So I think actually in the backcountry, the touring, like, ways to get yourself up the hill without a lift, without a resort, is going to actually have a bit of an explosion. And so it could end up being quite a difference in just the models that you're selling and not selling as much in that way too. And what you're developing in case that happens, might more emphasis put on that type of product as well, or at least trying to, get people's head around it, that, hey, you can get out there regardless if the mountains are going to be open or not.
And hopefully next fall, our hospitals will be, more comfortable with the idea of backcountry travelers going out, and people that are super conscious of social distancing may be more incentivized just to go backcountry skiing, even if the resorts are open. And then this idea of, varying levels of social distancing, maybe a ski hill has to close their lodge, but their lifts are still running, or, there's all these different reasons why people would want to go backcountry skiing more so now. Now we just need to do our job, and well, that's for Backcountry Magazine especially, to do the job of making sure everybody goes out and gets educated, gets the equipment, and knows before they go.
Even really over the past week or so, we've seen a little bit of a drop in human triggered slides, which is good because they kind of went crazy right after resorts were closing. So just to add to your point, we might see people get a little more used to resorts being closed, and hopefully some more education going on.
What are some of your takeaways on each of you? We saw a staggering number of people that were hiking up resorts all over the country once they closed. And certainly there were people that had all the best gear and frankly, a lot of knowledge, right next to a family of 4 who were on snowshoes, and dad's carrying 4 pairs of skis on a frame pack. And you see, for perhaps the first time, it was almost like a Tuckerman Ravine sort of dynamic, where you've got some awesome pro-type athletes and then just, Johnny cut-off jeans and Chuck Taylors. Do you have any takeaways from that, or, what are some of your thoughts?
Hey, I was one of them, man. I didn't have the jeans on, but I was lugging some stuff for my son, man, too, but he got into it. I mean, honestly, it's not the same experience. I mean, it's a completely different experience. Like, you can have, like, one day we went, me and my son, and we had great appreciation for just getting out there. We were just like, thank God we're out here. And like, we ended up like dicking around the top of the mountain at Bolton, going all over, exploring places we always looked at and never really checked out. And then they were like, oh wait, we can actually ski down too. So that was like that level. Then the next time we went, we're like, God, this is a lot of work just to take a run, man. So it's like, I mean, you're not going to replace it. And you're really, after the first time of like, oh, this is great, we're out of the house. It's like, it's a lot, man. It's a lot of gear. It's a lot of lugging. It's a lot of time that, I don't think there's no way to replace the quantity of people and the amount of participation, but I do think it'll open the minds. Like my son was like, hey, I'd like to get some of that lightweight stuff. This stuff's heavy, and it got my gears rolling. Oh, shit, next year I should get you an adult boot with the pins and the whole deal. So I think it will increase sales, awareness, and all of that of the backcountry scene. But it's just not the same if you're really up for hot lapping, and that's what you're all about. So
sure.
I think backcountry equipment sales. I mean, it was like before good AT bindings, it was tele equipment sales, not to say tele on this channel. I know that can be taboo.
Come
But,
on.
like, like we've been seeing this rapid increase in backcountry equipment, whether it's on the apparel with Air Perm fabric or, Lange having their awesome free tour boots, and so forth. So I think that no matter what, we're going to just see an uptick in backcountry equipment sales. I do think it's kind of beautiful to see like the love of skiing across all types of skiers, that people were just still ready to get out. And then there's the responsibility side of things that kind of set in, and resorts kind of had to step in and slow things down. But I think no doubt you're going to see more backcountry equipment sales, whether the resorts are open or not. I mean, they're definitely going to be open next winter, or I'm pretty confident in that 100%. But I think you're still going to see all of those sales go up. So if you have to ramp up on those neon green boots.
You're confident in it. I mean, if it's a go, then they're open.
100%.
That's all.
All right,
pretty confident.
Call it 95. Call it 95.
101% sounds good. Good.
I got to say, it's nice to hear the optimism in each of your voices. When they shut down all the resorts around here for uphill traffic, I think we were all struggling with that. And I had this great conversation with a buddy of mine who, because he could no longer skin at the mountain on a blue run and go back down, he rented a 9-inch wood chipper. And the thinking is, okay, are we really saving anybody from, making that EMS call here? Guys are dropping trees, cutting more wood, shooting more guns. I certainly have struggled with the lockdown of the stay-at-home movement that's happened in the ski industry. I'm a little conflicted. I have been abiding by it, frankly, but have you guys all stopped skiing? Are you playing by the rules, or what?
I actually, when everything first hit, 3-4 weeks ago, I still went out backcountry snowmobiling a couple times, and I actually had a serious bout of guilt while I was doing it, like a pit in my stomach that I got to get outside. But at the same time, I had this pit in my stomach. And my girlfriend of 15 years, she's actually in the healthcare business. She works in urgent cares, and they were full on before. And what we watch on CNN and whatnot now, and in what's happening in some of these metropolitan cities like New York and headed down the East Coast to Philadelphia, or what's out in LA, is not really totally realistic of what's going on currently, maybe in a lot of the ski towns. As I said, she works in urgent care, and they're actually cutting hours because nobody's coming in now, because the stay-at-home thing has been so strong that they've had to cut back the urgent care hours, the PAs and the doctors and nurses there for this reason. So I think as the ICUs handle the COVID cases, we're actually seeing a slowdown in the other parts, in like emergency rooms and whatnot. And of course, that's because everybody is staying home. So I'm not suggesting that people will go out and go nuts again. But to your point of the wood chipper and not skiing, it's kind of the same concept to some degree.
Fascinating.
I mean, I gave up on winter. I mean, I just was like, it's over. You're a lot better just being like, all right, it's done. Summer mode. Let's go. Like I can't. My yard is like, it's like 6 weeks ahead of. Usually, if it's the middle of summer, I still haven't like cleaned up my yard, or the grass is knee high, and now it's like immaculate. Nothing else to do. You want to go outside instead of going skiing, but I mean, you kind of gotta respect it, because it's not just about you, and I feel like a lot of young people out there, it's like, well, I'm too young to get it. They don't talk. They don't have someone that like a kid, for instance, that they're responsible for, or they're not thinking about their parents. And it's the fact that like your actions even though you might be fearless of getting the virus, or you might think, oh, I already got the virus, I can't get it again. It's like, it's going to lead to other people doing it. And then it's going to lead to someone getting the virus, passing on to someone else, that then passes on to 5 people later, you don't even know, and you're affecting, their life. And it came through my house, actually. And I think I brought home from Aspen from the free skier test, actually. And a bunch of me and the crew, a bunch of people were sick. And I had this, like, just some weird, it wasn't like a bad illness, but it was just odd, my symptoms. I never checked my temperature, and it went away in a week. And my wife already had, she already had a cough for weeks, and she got it pretty bad. And it was like, once you're with someone, and she's totally fine now, 100%. But when you get to that point where you don't know what's going to happen to someone in your family, like literally 72 hours from now, you're thinking maybe they'd be dead, or maybe they'd be perfectly fine. You have no control, no awareness of like where it's going, nothing you can do about it. It's like the most stressful thing you've ever experienced. I woke up 3 a.m. owning businesses, being like stressed out of my mind. There was nothing compared to this. And so, a lot of people, it's just normal human nature. It's not going to happen to me. And, that's them. That's what I see on TV. But the reality is, if and when it does, it's not worth it. It's not worth one bit of whatever you did to help others think it was okay to kind of loosen up. And honestly, myself, I wish the whole country just literally shut down for 3 straight weeks, buy all the food you need for 3 weeks, no one leave their house, 100% shut down. And I think we'd all come out of that with, in a really good spot. Where right now it's half-ass here, half-ass there. It's still going to exist. And, you look at China, and they're not, if someone knows someone that has it, they're taken away, put into a room for 2 weeks and monitored by the government. I'm not saying we should go to that, but they're not the example that we should be expecting ourselves to go through, because we're not doing a fraction of what they're doing to head this off. So anyone dreaming of in 30 days is going to be better, and 60, 90 days is going to be better in America, we're dreaming. Like, these other countries are so much stricter. Tor, you've been to these factories. Like, no, everyone in China 3 years ago wore a mask. You still barely see anyone, abiding by that here. So I just think the culture in America is really tough to break. Everyone's a rebel. No one wants to be told what to do. And it's just going to kind of meander until there's literally a drug for it, the American way. So I think, honestly, the ski industry, all we're doing is putting off the inevitable. We're all going to be the same as these bike companies now, not able to sell shit. And the difference is we have 4 months to look forward to it, 5 months to look forward to not knowing, how bad. But I assure you, it's going to be, unfortunately, I'm assuming it's going to be worse than we expect. I don't think the ski industry has never been, and in this case as well, I don't think we're an anomaly to getting screwed,
Well,
Well said.
I almost wound up in the ER after I was doing a home project during this time at home, and just like saw the electrical shock come out of the wall outlet, and I was like, man, I should not be doing this. This is no time for me to take on a new hobby. So I gave up on doing junior electrical work and tried to learn from that. I think, now that I live in a mountain town, there's just an interesting dichotomy between the messaging that goes on from the people that live in the mountain town and all of our customers that are living in the cities and want to go skiing. And when you see what's happening in Colorado and how they've asked people not to leave counties, and that, it's tough because you have people that live in a county with a mountain and they can go for a walk in the woods, whether it's snowshoeing or if they're going to ski down. But if you are parked on the side of the road and you don't have that county's license plate, you're going to get a ticket. That's illegal. And I don't know if that's the right or wrong way for Colorado to do it, or for them to treat people to keep people in their own county, but it's what's happening. And I think something that we have tried to do with our athletes that are getting after it is just to is just to ask them, like, if you're gonna go skiing, like, you be you, but don't tag us, don't talk about us, because like, we're trying to do what's best for the greatest good and trying to appease people's urges and make it easier for them to sit at home for 3 weeks, because we're not those countries that Jason just mentioned. That's what, the things that we love about this country. So hopefully people can be responsible, and, we can socially pressure them into doing the right thing and not getting hurt.
What are you other fellas doing with your athletes? Do you have a similar program? Are you talking to them about, like, hey, maybe just dial it back or don't spray?
I'm not saying anything to any athletes. I didn't think of it really.
Our athletes are obviously their own individuals doing their own thing. In terms of our brands, I still think at this time when we're all sequestered at home, we still want to see the stoke and the passion for the sport that we love. So I still enjoy seeing what I see, but we've been kind of regurgitating, old stories, that kind of thing, and trying to do less of, what's going on in the now. But keep the stoke of, this is hopefully, if we're all good and we do what we're supposed to, we can get back to this next year, kind of mentality.
Season recaps. There's tons of time to make an awesome season recap.
Lou, how do you feel about your coverage on backcountrymagazine.com, or where you're at with planning and how this has impacted you? Are you over the COVID story yet, or?
It's been, I would say 3 to 2 weeks ago was a lot of coverage, as everyone was adjusting to all of this, trying to figure out what our role should be as skiers and riders, how to be kind of appropriate, I guess. A lot of that seems to have died down. People they're either staying home or are really good at pretending they're staying home, which is good, I think, personal opinion. So yeah, I don't know. We're also, it's mid-April, so things are kind of wrapping up regardless. So coverage is sort of tapering, I guess, on a lot of the COVID-19 stuff as it pertains to the ski industry. And I know, at least over the past week.
Yeah. And I know you're spending a lot of time going through our test forms from our gear test. And it kind of got me thinking about each of these folks. What are you guys excited about for next year in your lines? Jason, why don't you start? What are some of your hot products we can
I just
hope to
coincidentally finally got pressured enough into making a ski that's somewhat good for touring. So that's just I hate walking in ski boots, so I like hot lapping on chairlifts. But we people have been asking for years, why don't you make a touring ski, and we actually did, just coincidentally. And it's not the lightest ski, but it's the lightest ski we make, and it's probably one of the better skis on the way down. It's called the Slacker, and it's the least nerdy touring ski, we come up with. That's kind of our position in the market. So it's not going to be a ski so light that it sucks going down. It's still going to be a blast to rip on. And you could take it on the resort all day too and never go touring on it, and you'll have just as much fun. It's like a 110 wasted ski. And I'm glad we did it. And it's the only model I didn't reduce my quantity to build, because I felt, geez, if you're going to put your eggs into something, might as well be this. But I did reduce a lot of the other models with the factory order, with the ability to build more later, but just less risk. And so yeah, that's that. And I have another ski called the Hot Shot that's more of a metal, powerful ski and whatnot. So it's kind of like the two opposites that we released this year. And hopefully it did good in backcountry. We usually, in the Backcountry mag test, we usually stir it up with getting an award for like the heaviest ski, but it's still awesome for touring from you guys. So I'm looking forward to how it does.
No pressure, Lou.
No. I need sales, man. Come on.
Dan, how about you?
Well, we keep pushing forward with trying to be the premier air permeable waterproof membrane people. So we retooled our fabric that we call the Perm, which is 20K waterproof and air permeable, and it's tougher. We like maybe added 0.5% in terms of weight to it so that we could get more stretch, more durability out of it. And you still get this, something that's, 100% more breathable than a traditional moisture vapor permeable membrane, which is some dorky lingo to throw out there. But essentially, it's going to keep you cooler when you start going uphill, and whether you're boot packing or skinning, or now that I'm a dad and I'm trying to get my kids dressed in the lodge, and you're about to start sweating before you even get outside, it really is pretty nice as a rad dad outfit. On the new style side of things, we did a new bib called the Moxie bib. The Foxy bib has been crushing it for years, and that's our number one selling 3-layer shell for women. And so we didn't want to screw with that, but we wanted to make something that was a little burlier. So we mashed up 2 different fabrics to make the Moxie bib. We gave it a little bit more of a relaxed fit so it could fit more people. And so far so good. It looks good, and it's holding up well. So that'll be a good one to come out this fall.
Right on. Thor.
First of all, I'm most looking forward to winter coming back next year, and hopefully for a full winter season. So let's start there, right? So that our dealers and everybody can prosper and we can do what we love to do, which is be outdoors again. As far as Lange goes, for us, we launched for next year the XT3. So it's the 3rd generation of the free tour boot, all new boot. Our whole tagline is get up to get down, which is really, that's why we're here to do the sport. We do it for the love of gravity. I'm similar to Jason. I like hot lapping on chairlifts or helis, preferably if I can afford it. But the whole concept is in alpine skiing for us is that the reason we go up is to go down, and that's what we built this boot for. So it excels in the down, but it's built to get you up more efficiently than the old XT Free was. So that's our key product story. And hopefully with Backcountry growing a little bit, maybe it'll be an okay year for us then next year if everything health-wise and economy-wise comes together.
Well, fingers crossed. Thank you guys for joining us today, and we'll hope to see you on the hill real soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
There. Be safe.
All right. Later.
Thank you for joining us for another Plan B podcast here at Backcountry Magazine. We're really enjoying these conversations. We hope you are too. If you care to, as you've heard, there are no advertisements, so this is entirely supported by our listeners and our subscribers. So if you'd like to support us in any way, please visit backcountrymagazine.com/podcast. Until next time, I'm Adam Howard. Thanks for listening.